and and I always tell them this first story of my first ever class when I was in Greece. Basically, got off the bus in this mountain town, walked into my first ever classroom, and I could barely speak. I was so scared. I was shaking all over, sweating, and it was awful. From that, it gets better very, very quickly. But so I always used to tell that story that if I can do it, you can do it, and I absolutely, sincerely believe that, and I still do.
You're listening to I Taught English Abroad, a podcast by the TEFL Org. My name is Ewan Davidson, and in this podcast series, we're going to be talking to people who've taught English as a foreign language, find out where it's taken them and what they've learned from it. So whether you're an aspiring TEFL teacher, you're studying a TEFL course, or you're interested in teaching English more generally, this is a podcast for you. We'll be covering a range of topics each week. We'll be covering a range of topics each week, from travel and accommodation to the nitty-gritty of teaching, all while taking a look at global teaching and the quirks of TEFL life. Now, it's another lovely day in Glasgow. I don't know why this happens, but every time I record, the sun comes out. But I'm sure it's even nicer in Greece, where today's guest is calling from. We've only got Joe Hallwood, co-founder of TEFL Org, in his virtual studio, if you like, with us today. Joe is an experienced TEFL teacher who taught in Greece and France before launching into the foundation of the TEFL Org in 2008. Originally based in Inverness, the TEFL Org has helped thousands of people pass qualifications to teach English abroad and now serves prospective teachers from all over the globe. The TEFL Org is the world's most accredited TEFL provider and has received countless awards, including a Queen's Award for Enterprise in 2022, FSB Business Award in 2019, was a finalist for the HSBC Scottish Export Awards E-Commerce Exporter of the Year 2017, quite a mouthful, a Herald Scottish Digital Business Award in 2016, and plenty more. On a personal level, Joe was named IOD Scotland Director of the Year at their awards presentation in 2013. He's also my employer, which means that this has to go right. Joe, how's it going?
Yeah, fine, thanks. Yeah, all good.
Are you happy with the intro? I was looking through all the awards and I was thinking, what are the ones that are most difficult to say out loud? And obviously, I picked all of them.
Yeah, it's always good to do, isn't it?
Absolutely. So I want to take things right back to the start of your career. It's a simple question, kind of. First of all, when did you know you wanted to teach English?
When somebody put it in my head,
Right.
basically. Yeah. I'm. I don't have a calling to be an English teacher, or didn't have a calling to be an English teacher. The idea of standing up in front of any kind of number of people, a class or whatever, is completely anathema to me. I was quite shy, and I just wouldn't want to do that. But anyway, I was working in Hull in the tax office, and somebody said, "Look, there's a job going in Greece. Do you fancy it?" And it's a simple way up between Hull and the tax office, or Greece and overcoming my fears and being a teacher. So yeah, I mean that's as simple as that, really. And I, when I actually got out to Greece and got in front of my first class, yes, I was nervous, but that soon changed, and never looked back.
I mean, it's not to say that the Hall doesn't have its own charms. I mean, it's the home of Kingdom Isambard Brunel. There's lovely bridges there, but I would imagine that it's...
You have a point, yeah. Of course, I forgot the highlights of Hull. Yeah.
So you didn't always have ambitions to teach,
No.
and were you? I mean, we'll get on to founding the TEFL Org later on because obviously it's fundamental to our conversation. But so let's go to young 17, 18-year-old Joe Hallwood. Like, what are your ambitions at that point?
That's probably a bit young, actually, to even. I don't think I really had any at that age. Get to university, survive that. But I wanted to travel. I knew I wanted to travel. I mean, that was, yeah. I mean, anything that enabled me to travel was probably an ambition, if you like. And for me, teaching English, just became that. That seems it just makes a lot of sense. Get paid to live in a foreign country, basically.
Amazing. So We've covered your move to Greece there a little bit, and as your career grew, it took you to obviously to Greece, but also to France. How formative were your experiences there? And was there anything when you were teaching abroad that made you think, I'm going to co-found a new TEFL provider? Like, there's things here that I know I could do, but maybe things I want to do differently. I mean, what were kind of the formative experiences that made you like your light bulb moments, if you like, when you were teaching over there?
Um, and I think it's something this is something that's has remained true, for the last 15 years, really 20 years or whatever. That if I can do it, then anybody can, and it's really just convincing people that actually you can do it. You know, um, I was in a position where I just couldn't imagine myself sitting, standing in front of a classroom of students, and I taught adults in France, and I taught teenagers in Greece. But actually, I loved it, and I could do it. You know, I've I think I became quite a good teacher, and yeah, so I absolutely believe that these are the skills you need to become a teacher, and anyone can do it. And so I guess that is probably the formative. Um, yeah, and I'd say after sort of 3 4 years of teaching in Greece, then teaching in France, teaching adults and business English, you've got quite a good overview of the different sort of teaching scenarios. But yeah, it's and I still believe it now. If I can do it, anyone else can.
Okay, so you touched there on teaching business English and teaching adults, and so obviously teaching teenagers in Greece as well. That gives you a really well-rounded kind of TEFL experience, especially from the teaching side of it. So, what would you say were the main takeaways from each group? Like, did you have to change your approach quite sort of vividly, or did you have sort of fundamental rules that you could stick to and you would know that these are universal kind of lessons? Like, how did your approach
Yeah,
change for the different groups?
the one thing you have to do in both cases is engage, and it's what you do to engage, say, I don't know, 40, 50 year olds as to 14 or 15-year olds. So, I mean, the one thing is, though, keeping your lessons interesting and relevant. Um, that's important. If you're doing sort of a listening with a 15-year old, a listening activity, that listening activity has got to be something that they can relate to. And equally with a 50-year-old in France, who's learning English because of their work, that listening needs to be tailored to something that they might actually have to do. So you've kind of got to work at it in your preparation. You've got to kind of think, well, will they find this interesting? Will it engage them? Um, and certainly, teaching in Greece before I taught in France, yeah, sort of really sort of put that at the forefront of your mind. And only because I had so many lessons that weren't engaging at the beginning, and you soon learn that if you want to get your point across or achieve the aims of that lesson, your material's got to be just good and relevant.
And so, was there anything specific that you saw while you were teaching? If you're working for companies or something like that, but that it didn't necessarily rankle with you, but you thought, I know there's a better way of doing this, or did you see anything around you that made you think like there's got to be a better way of doing this, so there's got to be a more dynamic approach? Like, what were those
Oh,
kind of things that you picked up?
yeah.
You don't have to name
But
names, don't
certainly,
worry.
yeah. I won't give any sort of names away, but Greece and France. In Greece, certainly when I was teaching out there, um, there's a big focus on learning by rote. Here's a big long list of vocab. Go away and learn it. Come back, have a test.
Mhm.
So really, over the time that I was there, really encouraged much more engagement, much more the methodology that we teach on the TEFL courses, where you increase that engagement with the students, you make it relevant, and you maximize sort of student talking time in the lessons. and the same with France. The materials that we were using were so out of date. So you do end up supplementing materials and methodology, and sometimes the students have to get used to a different way of doing stuff because they've always learned, say, in a strict, rigid way, and you're introducing sort of more sort of collaborative, student-centered approaches that, at first, they take a bit of getting used to, but again, it increases engagement and increases their effectiveness of their learning. So, those are the key takeaways, and certainly coming away from Greece and France, that was core to our sort of methodology in our TEFL courses.
Okay, so it comes to 2008. Yourself and Jennifer Mackenzie, the co-founder of the TEFL Org,
Mm.
um, what were the moments kind of leading up to it? I mean, had you ever sort of envisioned yourself, or had Jennifer ever envisioned herself as like business people? Was there a business background there, or was it just not just because it's an ambitious thing to do, but was it a sense of like let's give this a go? I mean, what were the feelings before you founded the TEFL Org?
Well, yeah, I mean, with a sort of teaching background, I didn't really have any sort of business experience or marketing or sales experience, which you kind of need. So when I got back to the UK, I did some teaching, but also got experience in marketing and sales in business. So when we did start, had at least an idea of you know what a set of accounts looked like, and but to be honest, the real setup, the real sort of drive for it was to produce courses that were what new teachers needed, and were relevant and high quality. I mean, that's been all the way through. Having been an English teacher, I just think it's very, very important that we train our teachers so they can go off with the highest amount of confidence that they can.
I mean, it's worked. The company's doing tremendously well now, and is a huge name. And so, kind of leading it back into sorry, leading back into the sort of foundation of the TEFL org. What challenges were there early on in terms of building up a TEFL business like from the ground up?
Um, those days, well, we had no money,
I'll do.
and that's the key thing. And you might have other sort of training organisations that are well funded. We at the very start we had nothing, so we ended up doing absolutely everything ourselves. Whether that's producing really corny marketing literature or, but we also I had to write all the courses, had to develop all the courses. We did online courses, so I had to learn about online online stuff. What do I mean by that? I mean how to deliver online courses, basically, and learn the software and to write the courses. We had to deliver the courses, and so right at the beginning, we could barely feed our kids. So that was probably the biggest challenge. How do you sort of grow when you're basically doing everything already? So it was hard work, but it got there.
Well, I mean, it's well worth it. We're talking today about it. It's been some journey. Um, you've seen kind of what I would describe as a kind of TEFL boom worldwide. You've seen that firsthand and been an active part of it. And that demand for TEFL courses only increased. During the sort of dark days of the pandemic. From what you've seen, going back to being a teacher yourself, starting a company, and of course running it all this time, could you have predicted the surge in interest in recent years? And what do you think are the major factors behind that?
That's a good question. Um, I don't know. I don't have to think about that one actually. Um, yeah, okay. Looking at the surge in demand. There's two things really. One, yeah, surge in demand, which can be brought about by the economics. Some people just looking for an extra income over and above the income they already have, and the cost of living right at the moment, for example, is testament to that. But we actually launched in a recession, and in a recession, people need employment, and employment abroad, employment in their home country. Teaching is a way to do that. And now we have a situation where we've got a high cost of living. People need to make ends meet, and actually just doing a few extra hours of tutoring online can really help towards that. The other thing I think for us as an organisation is that we've grown because, heck, being a bit lack of hubris here perhaps, but yeah, we're good. We produce high quality courses, and every single person that works in the organisation cares. It's you pick up the phone, you can chat to someone, you can email someone, chat, do online chat, but everybody cares about our customers, and that they get a really good experience. Our tutors are fantastic, so I think that probably, as much as anything, has driven that surge for TEFL Org, and that's been the ethos right from the very start. Because we've been teachers.
Mhm. And it's such a important point, that because I feel like students are going to trust organizations that are run by teachers to teach them. I mean, surely that that would go as a sort of natural fit. I've been wondering. You touched on it a wee bit earlier, but over the last decade, especially, the world of teaching, and specifically the world of TEFL teaching, a lot of it's moved online. A lot of what's available, broadly speaking, is available online. Obviously, there's still a huge classroom component, and there's a lot of fantastic tutors who are still, working in classrooms, people doing combined courses and all that kind of thing. But when a lot of the industry kind of moved onto the internet, what challenges did that create? But equally, how has that improved things from both a business and kind of a learning perspective?
Um, I guess always going online is the technology, and and the infrastructure. But certainly, moving our classroom courses online has been great. It means that that so many more people all around the world have access to our classroom courses. It's much more convenient. Okay, there are hiccups to start with, and finding the right software, and all tutors need to get used to the software and change their materials to suit the new platform. But we're an adaptable bunch, and actually, it was fine. Um, After the first few weeks, yeah. And we've always been online as well. We've always had an online component to our courses. Um, so we've got very experienced online tutors that can give that experience and give that feedback to students and develop them. What was the other part of the question? Sorry, I forgot.
And sorry, so I mean, obviously there has always been that online presence, but how has the surge in demand for online classes, how has that improved things from a business perspective, and maybe even a learning perspective? Because there's more ways for students to communicate with their tutors, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think certainly what the pandemic did is, because everything went online, schools went online. And then suddenly, I think people sort of realize that actually online's okay. Prior to that, people think, oh, maybe I should take a classroom course because it's more proper. It's more real than just the online course. You need to take more of a practical view. But I think having lived through that now, where really everybody has do their meetings, they can do their work and everything else online, it's just become a new normal. I mean, very, very suddenly a new normal. Um, so yeah, you can do your classroom courses instead of going to a course in Norwich or Nottingham. You can jump on Zoom and get the same experience, and it works.
Mhm.
And it's not the kind of taboo of not having the face to face. I don't know, it's a taboo or mistrust, or I'm not quite sure. But the attitudes have changed certainly, and it's just become a new normal.
Mhm. I love that. Okay. So going back to there's a bit of there's no sort of linear storytelling with this podcast, by the way. I sort of I sort of go back and forth from era to era,
Yeah,
but um, obviously you're motivated enough from your experience teaching to co-found this business. I was wondering what stories you could tell from personal experience about how teaching English has really changed someone's life, really opened them up to new experiences, especially kind of in terms of having taught business English. I mean, you know, without, I'm sure there's plenty of people who, from teaching, you've changed their life in quite a substantial ways. Was there anything particular, like any stories or any students that you remember, especially during when things were kind of tough right at the start of the business, that kept you going and to remind you, why you were doing this?
yeah. It's strange. You have so many students that you've taught, and that have gone on and done. I've got great stories from all over the world of people who, yeah, just making that first step and getting onto the plane after with the TEFL certificate in their hand. I guess the first one that always sticks out is our first ever student,
Hmm.
and we took the booking as an online booking, but the online booking wasn't working, and it took quite a few days to actually make the booking. But he didn't give up, thankfully. And he was a machinist, so he worked in a factory in Glasgow, and I taught him as well. Um, yeah, and as we hit it off, saying that if I can do it, then you can do it, and I mean, as far as I'm aware, I think he's still teaching. I mean, that was 13, 14 years ago. Um, yeah, and he went and he became a fantastic teacher, and he's teaching in. I think the first one was in Cambodia. He went to, but he's taught all over now. So, and there were loads of people like that. I mean, just loads. And I used to love doing the classroom courses, um, because you could really encourage them, and you can really say, "Look, I've done it. If I can do it, you can do it." And I always tell them this first story of my first ever class when I was in Greece. Basically, got off the bus in this mountain town, walked into my first ever classroom, and I could barely speak. I was so scared. I was shaking all over, sweating, and it was awful. From that, it gets better very, very quickly. But so I always used to tell that story that I mean, if I can do it, you can do it, and I absolutely, sincerely believe that, and I still do.
Um, because that was a very positive question. I like to follow up and perhaps risk ruining the mood by asking a more negative one. From your experience, what annoys you in the TEFL industry?
Nothing anymore. What used to annoy me was the snobbishness.
Hmm.
you can get, and you just don't get it anymore. But when we first started, because all the TEFL courses that were available were sort of full time for a month, um, and they cost over £1,000, and so you have to give up work. And I did one back in the 90s, and because that's all there was. And there's this snobbishness where it's like, oh yeah, because unless you do a month course, TEFL course, it doesn't count. But luckily, that's all changed now. That isn't anymore. Even people don't say it anymore. Because it's just history. Um, the more accessible TEFL courses that we do, the more condensed courses that we do, have provided teachers to schools all over the world that wouldn't normally be able to get English teachers. And it's something that's just become the new normal. Those longer courses, I think you can still do them. You can still do them, but they're also putting their content online and changing their courses so that they're accessible. They're kind of following us now.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been in the industry for a particularly long time, but that's one of the things that really struck me early on was there was this kind of elitism in the past,
Mm.
and seeing that get eroded over time is, I mean, that's so important because the whole point is that this is something that everyone should have the opportunity to do. Um, so it's great to see that's more of a thing of the past now. Just finally, before we get to a break, we talked about all the awards that yourself and Jennifer have won, but whether it's kind of solo or as as a company, awards are important. Accreditation is important, and the TEFL Org has become the most accredited TEFL course provider going. How important, if you can sum it up, I mean, how important is accreditation to you, and how vital should it be to people when they're picking a course?
Yeah. Well, firstly, we're not the only TEFL provider. And if someone's looking, to do a TEFL course, they go into Google or somewhere,
Mhm.
type in TEFL, and how are they supposed to decide? Which one's the best one? So accreditation is absolutely key for that decision-making process. Um, Awards, again, is the company good? Is the company trustworthy? So right from the start, yeah, accreditation has been absolutely key, because they're not easy to get,
No.
and you have to work hard, and you have to keep your systems and processes continually up to scratch. Um, and so yeah, it just helps them. That people are looking to do a TEFL course. It helps them with their decision making process. Makes it a little bit easier for them to decide which organisation to go with.
Mhm. And of course, the TEFL Orgs, it's won so many. Can you talk to, as because I hadn't really considered this before we agreed to chat to each other, but is it quite nerve wracking finding out whether you're going to get accreditation or not? Is there a bit of sort of suspense in that? Like, what how does it feel to know that you're on the cusp of being accredited by someone really significant?
Um, yeah, it is, because you invest so much in it. Um, you know, bit of heart and soul as well. And I don't like losing. So yeah, I always find it a bit nerve wracking. But we've I think got every accreditation that we, certainly academic accreditation that we've gone for. Um, and there's been a time that perhaps we've had to change something and go back and amend, and then we get it, and that's fine. Um, and it's good, but we've got the attitude that accreditation is about actually improving our processes and making us a better organisation.
Mhm.
So internally, it's for us as well, because we know we're doing the right thing and doing the best thing.
Great. So now we're going to take a quick break. Fantastic Erin from the TEFL Org is going to tell you all about a promotion that we're running. Have a listen for that, and if you feel so inclined, take it up.
Hi there. We hope you're enjoying listening to I Taught English Abroad, a podcast by the TEFL Org. Hopefully you're feeling inspired by what you're hearing, and maybe you're wondering if you can teach English as a foreign language too. Well, the answer is yes. And as an exclusive reward for listening to this podcast, we're offering you 50% off TEFL courses, plus a free lesson plans pack to help you get started. Just use the code PODCAST at checkout. With that discount, you can get TEFL qualified with the world's most accredited TEFL course provider and learn how to teach from teachers. With dedicated tutor support, lifetime access to our TEFL Job Centre, and friendly advice from our team of experts, you could be teaching English abroad or online within just a few months. Signing up couldn't be simpler. Just visit www.tefl.org and add the code PODCAST at checkout to get your discount. That's www.tefl.org. Start your TEFL adventure today.
Okay, and we're back with Joe. So, as I say, non-linear timeline in this podcast. Let's go back to your teaching days again.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, what did you love teaching? Was there any particular topic or family of words or punctuation or anything like that that you loved to teach the most? And on the counter side of that, was there anything that you dreaded teaching?
Yes, there's two clear answers to there. I, I'm a bit of a nerd. I'd say probably after my first year of teaching. I mean, my first year of teaching was really learning the ropes and actually learning the language as well. Because we all speak English to a level fluently, but to deconstruct it and work out what the past participle is and a gerund is and all this sort of stuff. But my students knew it, so I learnt it. And after the first year, I just love teaching grammar. I mean, it's really strange, and I understood it, and I would prepare grammar lessons and imaginative grammar lessons. So I actually love I still like grammar. And, one of the things that teaching in Greece, for example, they get quite a high level to near fluency at the top classes, and they had to pass an exam called proficiency exam, and it was actually quite tough. I mean, it's almost like an O-level English or something.
Mm-hmm.
So there was one particular paper I used to dread teaching because I wasn't quite confident enough that I actually, knew the answers. It took a lot of preparation to make sure that I could actually, go through it with them. Especially when you're coming up to exam time. Exams are really, really important because if a student passes their exam, it makes their career so much more important. I mean, that's true now as well. To have English is really, really crucial in Greece, and so it was exam time, and that particular paper, I dreaded it really.
That's fair. We were speaking to Claire Mitchell for our second episode, and she said, kind of referring to what you're referring to with the sort of proficiency exam. I don't know if she's done it yet, but she was going to take the IELTS just to see what it was like, and it's maybe really hard. Some of the topics are just very, very strange. But okay,
It
no,
can be.
that's a great answer. So we ask everyone that comes on, what advice would you give to people who want to get into TEFL, but they aren't quite sure where to start? I can't think of anyone better to ask. So let's say there's someone ever watching this or listening to this who's curious but hasn't quite bitten the bullet yet. What would you tell them?
I mean, it's easy to say just do it. But the overcoming your fears, if that's what you've got, like what I had, start off by doing a TEFL course. whether it's on online or Zoom or in a classroom, presenting in front of other people, even if they're your peers, the thought of it is worse than actually doing it. And if you can just get over that first step, you'll soon realize that that's what it is, and it'll make stepping on a plane to Greece, Japan, South Korea, or wherever much easier. So yeah, just do it, but just do that small step first. Get yourself on a course, and you've got much more of an understanding of what it's all about.
Along similar lines, obviously kind of different considering the context, what advice would you give to people who want to start a business in 2022, whether it's their own freelance English teaching business or something much grander? What advice would you give based on your own experience?
Anybody can start a business. I'm testament to that. It's but you've got to go all in. I mean, all in, and don't fear failure, because failures always happen. You try something, it doesn't work. You try it again, oh, then it works. And whether it's business or sailing, things will go wrong, and you just got to keep pushing and pushing and pushing, working hard, and then they'll go right. They'll go right just out of sheer will, if nothing else. Yeah, I would say actually just go for it if you want to start a business. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Great. So you're on holiday at the moment in Greece. The background, I couldn't ask for a better background for a guest. I mean, it looks absolutely beautiful there. So obviously, I mean, I know you personally from working with you, and you're a very driven and very sort of determined guy, and you don't strike me as someone who would dwell too much on previous successes. But have you been able to? I mean, obviously with the Queen's Award and everything, and the heights that the TEFL Org's reached in more, especially more recent years, have you been able to reflect on the impact that you've made? And is there anything that you wish you'd done differently, or something that you wish you'd integrated sooner? Like, have you been able to kind of reflect on these things? I know it's a bit. This is your life, but like,
Um, I know it's as we were just saying. When you're in business, you try a lot of things, and a lot of things don't work, and some things do work, and that's okay. So to regret all the things that didn't work would be pointless, because unless you have that kind of process of trying something, that doesn't work, that's a rubbish idea, oh dear, shouldn't have done that, and but eventually you get the right, the right things, and so it's pointless to regret any of it, really. I've also had lots of luck, um, uh, help from people, um, yeah. So it's yeah. I've forgotten what the question was again. Sorry.
that's all right. Um, how have you been able to reflect on everything that you've achieved with the TEFL org, and I guess like what's to come? What would you like to see next or to do next within the industry?
Yeah. Well, certainly, I think the strength of TEFL Org is down to the team. It's not any one person. Okay, we started it back in the day, but it's grown because of the team, and it's a success because of the team. Because the whole team really are from that same approach. We want quality. We want to sort of get out of bed in the morning and try and do something. We want to go to bed thinking we've actually done some good today. So yeah, that's when I reflect on that, is very much about the team. Going forward, next, well, uh, I couldn't get Greece out of my system. Um, that and I was here in the '90s, and I want to stay here.
Can't blame you.
And it's sailing now is my next challenge. And I want to sail. I want to solo sail, and that has all its own list of fears to overcome as well.
Goodness me. I mean, I'm just trying to compare your sort of backdrop over there to mine. There's an abandoned golf course. That's something. But yeah, no, that sounds incredible. So last question. I like to. My background kind of before this was music journalism and football and that kind of thing. So I like to drop these kind of questions very late on. But I'm going to introduce you to a hypothetical scenario that's nothing like Desert Island Discs. So I don't know why anyone would say that. But you're away to somewhere remote, an island or peninsula, to teach English. Your phone breaks, your Kindle, your laptop, all that stuff. So all you've got is 3 books and 3 albums on an old stereo in the accommodation you're staying in. What are your albums and what are your books?
Oh my goodness!
I know.
I think one album that I can't get enough of is Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
All right.
That has all sorts of memories, and for me, other albums, it would have to be some bouzouki. I think bouzouki music, traditional Greek songs. And the third album, I think, just to keep it very, very different and something I could really explore, would probably be some opera, I think. So all very different moods and all that sort of thing. Books wise, blimey. I don't know. I don't know what books I'd take.
They can't be TEFL textbooks. I can't emphasize that enough.
Question. Ones I wouldn't easily finish, I guess. Actually, I might take the Bible.
Fair enough. There's a lot in there.
Yeah, there's a lot in there. Keep me going for a while. Yeah.
Okay.
Can't think of any books. Encyclopedia.
That's what happens when you put people on the spot. It's like being asked kind of what music are you into, and then you forget every single thing you've ever listened to.
Yeah, exactly. There's How to Survive on a Desert Island might be.
That's a good book.
Yeah.
That's a good book.
Yeah.
I won't spoil the ending for you though. But Joe, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Please go away and enjoy the rest of your holiday. But thanks so much for giving me the time to chat to you. It's been excellent.
Yeah, good to see you too, and see you soon.
Okay.
You've been listening to I Taught English Abroad, a podcast by the TEFL Org. However you found us, we hope you've subscribed to keep up to date with each episode. And please remember to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Acast, or wherever you found us. To keep up to date with the TEFL Org, you can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Just search the TEFL Org and you'll find us. And if you're interested in starting your TEFL journey, you can browse our courses and speak directly to an advisor by visiting www.tefl.org. That's www.tefl.org. See you next time.